Hey friends, as I'm talking to congregational teams, staff teams, ministry teams, board members, etc., the question of staffing for technology keeps coming up. And repeatedly, the knee-jerk reaction right now is to go big on tech staffing in a way that is wholly, not like, oh, holy, but wholly inappropriate. Stop, hold on, let's go through this. All right, we're talking technology, staffing, and ministry, especially in the context of multi-platform and hybrid worship, ministry, etc. We're talking digital here to stay long term. How do we respond staff-wise? Peter, should we downsize our existing program staff and invest in a full-time tech person? This is like from an email. My answer, no, don't do that. Most congregations are not big enough, one, to be able to afford that without chopping, hacking back all other positions, which is not where I recommend you start. Oh, we're overworked. Things are stressed. We're having trouble adapting to life as it is. Let's piss everyone off and fire everyone so I can be even more overloaded. We don't want to do that. Here's how I want you to think of it. As we move forward, as quickly as possible, we need to be using the tools of our time to communicate with people online, to build connections online, to establish rapport online, to be doing ministry online. Friends, we need to be using this technology as program staff members, as religious professionals, as volunteers. You can't outsource your ministry to like a new full-time tech person. That's like you're a quarterback and you're about to get sacked by all these different things. Like, oh, the enemy and the opposing team's gonna get me. What do I do? Hail Mary, just throw it, right? Is that gonna work? Well, in football, that might work. But some people right now, clergy, board members, others, are like, what do we do with the pandemic, hybrid ministry, multi-platform worship? And they're like, we're gonna just hire a full-time staff person. So we need to be thinking about, all right, one, this is a time for congregational retreats, facilitated retreats. Some people are like, oh, we don't want to invest in a consultant. Well, it is very smart, whether you use a consultant or someone else, to take the time to imagine and talk with your congregation. How are we called to be in this time? What are the demands of this time? How do we as a congregation want to move forward? Are there those of us who have skills, passions, interests to help us move into this new world where digital is critical? Because one thing I know, consistently people are like, Peter, we have no volunteers in this area. Well, if you have not been talking about the role of social media in changing how we live, the impact of technology, etc. Like if you haven't been speaking to these issues publicly in the context of your ministry and worship and newsletters, etc., all the people with those interests and skills, they're somewhere else. I know this for a fact because for years, I was preaching around New England talking about, this is my sermon title or service title, Friendship in the Digital Age. I'd go to congregations and talk about the impact of social media on congregational life and how we have to change our approach for these times. Well, what would happen? Those services ended up getting all kinds of new people showing up. More visitors coming to those services than a lot of the average services. And so I talked to ministers and others, why was I getting so many newcomers, visitors to my service compared to the norm? And it's not that I had groupies following me, though I have groupies. I have fans. No, but it's that there are people tuning into the congregation online who are lonely, so that service spoke to them. Friendship, all right? 2, they were having trouble connecting with the congregation as they were presently doing things. We're talking about friendship in the digital age. We're speaking to these issues. But what's more important and relevant to us is I would have little conversations in coffee hour following those services, a little facilitated Q&A, a little seminar. We'd have newcomers like first-time visitors come to those sessions, and people who are existing members, like spouses of members and others who hadn't been involved but came to church because they're like, finally, the congregation's taking this serious. So here we have staff, board members, others in the conversation, first-time visitors, newcomers, and people who are like, I would love to help us develop a new website. Are you serious? Yes, that's happened. All right, so before you start thinking about going like big on staffing, I want you to do this. Talk about how are you going to invest in your existing staff and volunteers and build your strategies. Build your understanding of our present situation, learn new strategies, and skill up. Like, are you going to do that? Everybody needs to be building these skills. I have training programs that help do that. There are other things you can do. I have fantastic programs in that regard. UU Digital Ministry Academy, Video Ministry Academy, and then just like single shot retreats. Contact me. We'll create something for you. But we want to build your capacity. Why? Because as you're using technology, you need your existing staff and volunteers to be building relationships, actively cultivating, supporting, building relationships with newcomers, friends, and members of the congregation online in digital spaces. You need people who can help people online move from being connected to you in these digital spaces to engaging with your online programming and offline programming. Whether you're doing small groups in Zoom groups or meeting outside or somewhere else, you need to help people move from connecting with you via social media or however they find you, Google search, whatever, YouTube, and move into a relationship with you. All right? That takes strategy, specific practices, skills. You can't outsource that. You need to help your existing members and friends, your staff, learn how to do that. So there's a whole bunch of things you need to learn how to do, and you can't outsource that ministry. You're not going to be able to hire someone and be like, oh, tech person, will you come here and film all our stuff, create all of our social media, and do our ministry? Not happening. Okay. So you can't outsource ministry through some big, like, new, we're going to invest. We're going to fire everyone else and invest in a full-time person to be our staffing for the 21st, 22nd, whatever century, whatever year it is. What are we? 2021, 22, beyond? Who knows when you're watching this? Hey, what year is it? Let me know. All right. So I hope that makes sense that you can invest in a full-time staff person who's all tech, but you know what? They're going to be like, well, I can film stuff for you. I can do graphic design, whatever. But like, I need to understand what's Unitarian Universalism. What's the point? How are we doing? Like, all of a sudden, that person is going to have to figure out how to do the job of all the other people, staff and volunteers. And actually, it's easier to build the capacity of your existing community than to bring someone in and teach them how to be you and kind of replace you. All right. So yes, you are busy. You are stressed. You are at your wit's end. That's when it's time to circle together as a congregation, slow down, and have the big purpose questions, the vision questions, the mission talk, all these things, congregational retreat, strategy conversations. It'd be better for you to close your church to public worship for a month and do a month of Zoom in-house conversations with everyone participating and move towards a vision for the future. That would be better than doing a Hail Mary. Let's hire a new staff person. And just like, you can't, as a leader in good conscience, whether you're a volunteer leader or a religious professional, just like out of your panic, fear, and emergency state, cut someone's job. I'd rather, if you're like bugging out and like the shit's hitting the fan, pardon my language, and you're like, we're gonna chop someone's job, and reach out to me. I'd love to just have a conversation, just a short conversation. can accomplish a lot. I don't do a lot of direct consultations right now. I'm more focusing on training to equip you and your leaders for these times. But if you have an emergency, feel free to reach out. What else? I think that's the main thing, that we need to recognize that you are in a position where your existing volunteers, your existing staff, and you as a religious professional or board members, whatever role you have, together your community needs to deepen your understanding, develop new skills, strategies, and start moving forward. As we embrace what's a long-term, like digital life is here to stay, how are we going to do this together? And like to do that from a place of how are we going to do this? And what don't we know how to do? I know a lot of ministers and like program staff people who don't like looking incompetent, who don't like looking like they don't know the answers, who don't like being in a situation where they aren't smart and just like, I have everything figured out. Well, that is not how you lead in this world anymore. You need to be leading from a place of, where are we? What's happening? How do we understand this? What do we need to learn how to do so that we together, volunteers and staff, collaboratively can really work towards the vision and mission and calling of our congregation in these times. So I hope that helps. I know there's like the urge, like go big with the staffing, and that's going to fix all your problems. Again, that's not going to solve your problems. That's going to potentially lead to people being hurt, upset. There's fiscal mismanagement, irresponsibility, and you're shooting yourself in the foot if that is your approach to fixing all these emergency issues and being overwhelmed. I would instead say, like, invest in your staff, focus on your process, look at what are things short term in terms of like tech, like AV, media things. Like, are there people, media and tech tasks that you can contract with someone to do? Lots of people out there who do this kind of work that you can hire them as a consultant or an hourly person and do short-term building up of that capacity while you're figuring out long-term, like, what does your ministry model or congregational life even look like? And how are your existing leaders and staff members equipped to do that? How might they be equipped? Are they interested? As you go through the process, like a really a responsible and intentional process of discernment, exploration, learning, vision casting, mission redevelopment, experiment and play, you may find that this person over here, they want to quit their job because they have no desire. Well, fine. Well, then you know that. But what if in a different scenario, that person's like, I would love to learn how to facilitate amazing Zoom experiences where newcomers get rapidly connected to our congregation and our membership development efforts just are like more successful than ever before. Friends, online events are outperforming in-person events like across industries. So that, like, when you think about hybrid and multi-platform ministry, like, there are things that we can do online and help your congregation accomplish that we never could do through physical gathering. It's amazing. So just think about, how can we empower people? How can we invest in our existing members? How can we use short-term help, contract, bring this person in, or even hold off doing certain things while you're having conversations so that you can move faithfully forward with a process that can really allow you to cultivate volunteers, new leadership, new skills, maybe change portfolios among your staff, because we do need more tech and communication as part of our portfolios. But that needs to be a longer term conversation. And some of you will ultimately get to the point where we need more staffing. But that person's more likely to be a high performing communication and membership development person who can do communication and membership and a lot of the tech for you, because we're not going to find just some tech person who doesn't have a heart for ministry in your community who's going to be able to do the ministry side that goes with the tech. Okay? So it's like a yin yang. Like, yeah, there's a lot of tech we need to do, but there's always going to be a corresponding ministry aspect, relationship, facilitating conversations, etc. You can't have people, like, it's hard to have people on staff who don't have any tech ability and aren't willing to learn. That's a challenge. You need to talk about that. But going all in on the tech staff, that's going to cause more problems, I think, than help. I hope that helps. Let me know what you think. Feel free to email me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond to follow-up questions. And if you know a congregation that is having this conversation and could benefit from this video and this post, please share the link with them. Thanks.